You ever spend weeks planning the perfect class activity, field trip, and you went guest speaker, and instead of excitement, you get traffic or wait, that's on another campus? Yeah, same. Yeah, sometimes your semester's highlights becomes their logistical nightmare. And while it's tempting to sigh dramatically and chalk it up to students' laziness, which, let's be real, sometimes plays a role, there's something way more complex going on. Sawadee Krab and welcome to another episode here for the fun about mindful media and communication and hopefully mindful semester failures from a professor's point of view. So there are a few things that didn't go as planned this semester, and I thought I just shared it, just like I shared things that worked the other day, a week ago or so, because not everything that glitters is gold. That's the saying, right? Yeah. So let's start with the dream plan that I had, okay? Take students off campus. Yes, cool, right? Out of the classroom, like this, pardon me, one of the educational levers, right? Change the space. Show them real-world applications. Spark curiosity behind the classroom. Woo! And what you get? But, prof, that's pretty far. Is it mandatory? Do all students have to come? Will there be food? How do we get there? Well, in Bangkok, to be fair, traffic alone can turn like a 2-hour class into a 6-hour ordeal. Okay, I get it. 2 campuses, one downtown, one on the outskirts, doesn't really help. So what was meant to be an immersive learning journey becomes more like logistical negotiation. How do I get 60 students from one campus to the other campus and then all get in there on time and then back again for another class because the other professor couldn't cancel or couldn't postpone the class? And oh my God. So takeaway here is that learning isn't always about what's taught, right? It's always about where, when, and how it's delivered, obviously. And great ideas need great planning. And life influences your plans, right? The thing is, I planned this amazing getaways thing, this amazing field trip. And then students are like, yeah, but we have to go back and then we have another project, which is fair. They have lots of work. Totally fair to mention that. Not saying students are lazy. Actually saying it comes down to better planning, to be honest. You can't expect that everybody's as excited about your ideas as you are. So that's definitely a learning there that I have to improve upon. And if you have any similar experiences, I would be really happy to hear them. So it was definitely like kind of like a gut punch already, like a gut check, because I was all excited and like, oh, am I the only one that's that excited about it? Oh no. Also, still one thing that's haunting me to this day, the attendance illusion, right? So I'm sorry, students listening to this, tune out right now. I'm not hating. But, do you run a class like high school? Check attendance, chase latecomers, penalize absences, or do you treat students like adults? In my class, I usually lean towards the latter. No attendance checks, mostly, no babysitting. Results. Students show up late. Not all, some students show up late. Some don't show up at all, your choice. And then come to the finals, and when they're shocked, like, wait, what? Participation matters? Yes. Also, if you're never in class, how do you do your group work, for example, right? It's frustrating, but it's part of, I think, teaching life skills. If you want to be treated like an adult, you gotta behave like one. But then here's the tension, right? Force them to show up, they come, might be disengaged, give them autonomy, some disappear. So what's the win in this failure of having the highest possible class attendance? I think it's about building a classroom culture where presence feels valuable, not just compulsory. And you can't reach everybody with that. The ones that you actually reach, they will enjoy coming, they will be engaged, which is great. Just sometimes it feels, and again, happy to hear your input there, it feels a bit disheartening when you're thinking, hey, I give you so much autonomy. And it feels like a parent, right? You're like, hey, I give you the choice to do so many things, and you don't even shop to what I prepared for you. You don't even care about what I prepared for you. And you're like, oh, my heart's breaking a little bit. But that's part of life, and you have to learn, and they have to learn, sometimes the hard way, right? Also, all of my classes are like very much not lecture style, mostly project-based learning, of course, very interactive and so on. The thing is, PBL isn't always a party, right? No exams, no memorization skills, just real-life applications. Sounds amazing, right? And to many students, it is until the deadlines stack up, collaboration gets messy, feedback feels too raw or too much, not sugar-coated. Because let's be honest, the absence of exams doesn't mean an absence of pressure. In fact, it demands much more intrinsic motivation, right? The fear of feeling a test is gone, so you've got to replace it with purpose. And some students thrive in this, which is great because it's way more real-world applicable. But others then just coast until the final project. But it doesn't mean like 5 slides and wipes and all is good. And sometimes that realization comes too late, even though you, of course, as an educator, you try to lead towards that. But again, not coming to class, not checking in, then they don't know, and then they think that's how it works. And again, then maybe that's learning the hard way. That's how life is. No problem there, of course. But again, as an educator, you always feel like you should get everybody on board, right? So I guess the lesson here is, and parents probably know that again, autonomy is a double-edged sword. And in particular, with students that are all adults by age, I will keep handling it that way. And if you have to learn the hard way, you're very welcome that you learn it in my class and not 4 years later or 3 years later or whenever later when you're out there in the real world. So you're welcome. Just also still, again, sometimes hurts the soul. Another thing that I find that's a recurring thing, right? But the group size conundrum, right? Small groups, easy. Yeah, you can spot every learning style, you can mediate like tensions, you can personalize feedback, great. Large groups, chaos. You get ghost participants, free riders, one person carrying 5 others, and so on. And in this semester, I had lots of big classes, like 60 students up. And this semester, it showed me that scaling active learning isn't just about duplicating tasks. It's more about reinventing the structure that carries it. One thing, sure, peer evaluation, peer grading, another like role-based contributions, for example. But even then, like equity isn't always guaranteed, so it's hard. So teaching large groups still remains this unsolved boss level, I think. Getting better at it, figuring out more ways how to be as fair as possible when it comes to groups and all those things. But I wouldn't say I perfected it. So if you, again, have any feedback input on how do you handle like project-based learning in big groups, in big classes, with maybe even bigger groups, without TAs, by the way, all by yourself, please do shout out. I'm very curious to hear about that. What else? Well, I mentioned in the previous episode that we talked about the good things that went well. That of course workshops usually went well. Active formats work well. Active case studies, not just presentation of case studies, but actively working within case studies with actual real world clients hits way harder. Also, I learned that it really comes down to physics. Energy input equals energy output, or at least it's somewhat related. You're not getting the same energy back, but if you're putting in energy, you're getting energy back, right? So I think that's something. There's a question, though, from me too, hopefully people, educators listening. How do you handle that energy drop? Because, I mean, again, my classes are always very active. So I never sit down in a class. I barely stand still. Lots of walking, lots of talking, lots of joking, lots of interacting with like groups and single students here and there. It's always very active and it's lots of fun. But as soon as the class is over, right, and again, classes here in Thailand mostly 3 hours, as soon as the class is over, there's like this crazy energy drop. It's like, and it's very hard to reboot, to restart again on that day. It takes hours for me to overcome that drop. So if there's anything, no drugs, if there's anything you have to share, please shout out in the comments or at FunkitPod on social media or via email. I would be very curious to hear how you overcome those things. One learning again was that delivery trumps content at times, actually most of the time, to be honest. If you make it engaging, then you don't risk losing the audience, the students, and even boring topics can be fun. So almost at the end of this quick reflection of failures, quick like reflection to the reflection. So as I mentioned before many a times, so I take lots of inspiration from the D-School way, the design thinking approach, and so on. So applying design thinking principles to teaching, basically, which would be empathize with your learners, first define a real problem. Often it's not a syllabus. Sometimes it is, but it could also be motivation. Ideate with like wild formats. So that's what I like a lot, actually, like what I did with like Scavenger Hunt, creating their own podcasts, live consulting, and so on. Prototype and testing. And here's the failure. Prototypes, they flop sometimes, but it's totally okay. I think in this case, prototyping, right, to finding kind of solutions to the questions that we're asking, it's great actually because you learn from that, right? You fail, you learn, you get better. So that's how it's supposed to be. You reflect and you iterate. And if I do this as like an approach to teaching, of course, I should also use this as an approach to curriculum building, syllabus building, and also thinking about my classes. So while not every session was a hit, of course, I think that at least the missteps became feedback actually for me, which is good, which is basically the gig we sign up for, right? And while it hurts to admit, teaching isn't perfection. It's iteration. And if we're as educators not failing like occasionally, we are not really pushing the model and we're always just staying the same, right? So for me, that means, hey, fail forward, right? Teach sideways, fail forward. This semester wasn't flawless by any means. Like some ideas didn't land, some classes lost steam in between, some projects never got off the ground. But the lessons from that and the lessons delivered overall, I think they hit. So if again, last shout out to you and asking for feedback. So if you're an educator or even a student reflecting on a semester, like, I think failure isn't the opposite of progress. I think failure is the scaffolding beneath progress. So actually failing at times is necessary to move forward. That said, what were your failures this semester? I'm really curious to hear how did you fail? What made you fail and what lessons did you learn from that? Because as you can see, I'm quite open about it now too. And I'm thinking like what to do better for the next semester, which is going to start in some time. So I'm planning right now. So shout out either in the comments wherever you're listening to this, or at FunkReport on social media. Until then, enjoy the time without classes and lectures. Take care, stay safe, and we talk soon. Saudi Cup.